Eric Browning has been setting the bar for athletes in our area. He was a state champion in the high jump in 1996 at Rogers and went on to compete at Bowling Green. But he's truly made his mark as a coach. Browning is one of our top 20 coaches of the BCSN era, presented by First Solar. He joins Mason Lowry to tell his story.
So Eric, the high jump is such a unique and really, to me, interesting event as somebody that's never tried to do it. And you did it so successfully. You were a state champion back in the day. You went on to high jump in college. What drew you to the high jump?
So track and field has always been the Browning family business. Before I was the head coach of Rogers, my dad was. And he was extremely successful, built the Rogers program. And so as a child growing up, you had to. But I couldn't sprint. I was not fast. My dad loved the half mile. He loved cross country. I couldn't do that. But I was, when I was in high school though, this is not an exaggeration, when I won the state championship, I was 6'3", about 135. So,
oh my gosh.
So the physics, just the physics. So I tell people today, I didn't love high jumping, I loved winning. I'm extremely, extremely competitive. And it was really clear to me, I played high school quarterback, but my ceiling was really limited there and it was not in the high jump. So I pursued the high jump and then followed into college and always wanted to be around the sport, wanted to coach, so I followed it. I actually took over Woodward when I was student teaching there.
Oh, wow.
And then when I finished student teaching, I went right over to Rogers and became an assistant where I went to school. My father handed over the program to Bob Hayton, and then it was handed over to me 5 years, an assistantship, kind of an internship, and then I took over.
What advice would you have for some young people maybe watching this that think, hey, the high jump sounds pretty cool, how can I get into it and excel? So
I look at, I'll ask basketball players, do you jump off of 1 foot or 2? Can you jump off of 1 foot? And it's a really quick kind of a 2-step hinge motion. But if you can jump, you know it. And honestly, most people can't. Most people can't. And I'll get a question. One of the things I get because of Eric Kennard, and I'm sure we'll get into that, is, hey, can you take a look at me? Can you take a look in the high jump? I can take a look at one video and I can tell if you can jump. So people will come to me, and every once in a while I'll work with somebody on the side. I've got one high schooler outside of Whitmer right now that I work with on the side. Mm-hmm. And the first time I took a look at it, oh yeah, you can jump. So we'll work.
You mentioned Eric Kennard, one of Toledo's favorite sons, Olympian. Obviously, the whole city is just so darn proud of him. Mm-hmm. I'm certain you realized right away, this guy can jump. Was there a point when you thought, this guy's a generational talent, he can get to the Olympics and make crazy things happen?
Yeah, so everything's on level. So first of all, we knew who Eric was because the guy that I coach with, that I've coached with and actually coached me in high school, coached his dad. Oh. So his dad was an all-state sprinter, actually was second or third in state. And Eric looks just like his dad. So, we were looking at him as a sprinter way back in elementary school, and then when we saw him high jump, obviously, we knew he could be good. So when I looked at him as a freshman, I looked at him and I thought, oh, that's a state champion. Then once I actually got to experience his work ethic, because he was not with me as a freshman, he was at Start High School, he came to Rogers as a sophomore. Once I experienced his work ethic and then his talent close up, it became, you're going to be an All-American, and then it became, you're going to be, and so All-American is supposed to be the top level.
Sure.
Olympian is a dream, but for him, it's not a dream, it's a reality, because once you're All-American, the next step is Olympian. So for most kids, you're hoping to become All-State, and then if you can get to that really rare air, then you talk about collegiate, and then if you can get to that rare air, then you can talk about All-American. So he had already done all of those things by sophomore in high school. Jeez. So where it is absurd for a high school kid to talk about Olympian, this kid was already on the All-American level, so it was legitimately his next step, and we planned for it.
I doubt we'll ever see his like again around here. I hope we do, but my guess is we don't.
It's an unfair to even compare.
So we won't. Track and field has always kind of interested me from a coaching standpoint, in the sense that when you're the head coach of a track and field program, it's so many sports rolled into one, so many different specialties, different events. You need to have a working knowledge of all of it in order to keep the trains on time, so to speak. Logistically, how do you manage all that?
You have to, well, first of all, passionate about the sport, but two, you have to have a good staff. I mentioned I still coach with the man who coached me in high school. So he's in his 70s now, and he's retired from teaching, and the only thing he cares about is his family and coaching track. And so I can rely on him to do two things. He can coach, just like me, he can coach any event on an elite level. So right now, last year he spent all of his time with our long jumpers who are really good. This year he's splitting his time between our throwers and our sprinters. I have another head coach that I have every right now. I'm spoiled. I can't even. Every coach that I have with me has formerly been a head coach. My throws coach was a start football coach. He came over to work with us. He could be a head coach someplace else. He chose because he knew what we were doing over at Whitmer was special. My cross country coach is another head coach, and again, the guy I coach with was Eric Kennard Sr.'s head coach in high school. So I just have a really blessed staff. At Rogers, it really was, most of the time it was the two of us. And we would try to have one other really good assistant either in the throws or the pole vault. So they would take that event by themselves, and then the two of us, we would coach everything else and the elite athletes. And Rogers was a smaller school, but Rogers had the reputation of being an elite track program with elite coaching. So schools like that can kind of draw, like Eric Kennard. When Eric Kennard became an all-state high jumper, he realized he needed something special.
Sure.
So he ends up at Rogers. And so what we would often get at Rogers would be 4 to 5 really, 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 really good athletes. And then we would coach those 4 or 5, and it wouldn't matter what event they were in, all on our own. So, I mean, when I look at kids that I put on the all-state podium, 100, 200, 400, those are the easy ones. The ones that require the technical skill, the high jump, we've had that. The 800, you've got to be doing something. The mile. Now, this is diverse. Both hurdles. I love the hurdles. Those are my favorite. The high jump, I think, and the pole vault are the most complicated events. Now, this kind of an interview made me reflect. I went through and I was looking at every all-state kid. His line's my living room. So every time I've ever had anybody score in the state championship, I get their picture and I keep it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I've got 28.
Jeez, who needs wallpaper when you've got 28?
Right, no, and you know what? It is. That's an excuse to never have to redecorate.
There you go.
I just add a few more pictures, hopefully, every year.